Welcome to Ride On, episode 9. I'm James Gross, and I'm joined by my co-host, Julia Thane. Julia, you have a different background. Where do we find you today? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm back on the East Coast, James. Went to visit my family, needed to have some fam time. So what you see in the background is actually my mom's bookshelves.
Amazing. Our bookshelves. Okay. We'll try to keep this episode in the mom zone, I guess. We'll try to make it.
What does that mean? Like no curse words? I can't actually make fun of you, James. Yeah.
Yeah. What books are we talking about? What does the mom's bookshelf have? Like,
my mom's an artist, so it's a ton of art books. Yeah.
That's way out of my pay grade.
Yeah, I know. It's like, James, how much do you want to riff on this? Because I'm not sure we could go for a while.
I need like the really simple business books, like could be great. Oh yeah. Great.
He's starting a business.
Sorry.
How to win friends and influence people.
Taxes for dummies. That's my bag. Well, great. Well, everyone, we were off last week. So sorry for everyone that was trying to tune in. We had some crazy travel schedules last week too, so we unfortunately couldn't do an episode, but we are back and I think better than ever. So I'm very excited for this episode ahead. Julia looks slightly skeptical from what I can tell, but that's fine.
We just talked about how both of us got sick after our travels, so I don't know if better than ever is how I would describe my current status, but next week will be better than ever.
It's brutal out there when you have to travel in these shells that we are in, when we're not going micro and we're not riding with a wing in our hair.
Weed rides are germ infested, let me tell you.
Right. Yeah. Where the micro ride, there's just nothing but fresh air all around you. So.
Germs slide by you, you're immune.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk some housekeeping, Julia. We have a winner for our very exciting Cowboy bike from a couple episodes ago. Thank you everyone for their patience and waiting for this winter. The winner, sorry. And our winner of the new Cowboy bike with adaptive power, which again, I think I mentioned I tried when I was in Paris, which is amazing. The winner of this is actually going to be, sorry, Julia, you have to do the drum roll. I fix my screen here.
I'll do that.
The winner is Celine Periscane out of Belgium. So congratulations to Celine. Very exciting. She submitted on our website on ridereview.com, and she also left a nice comment on YouTube. So you are the winner of the new adaptive power with the cool new colors that they have. So yeah, congratulations to you, Celine. I'm slightly jealous. I didn't win one. Julia, I know you had one, so you didn't need to win this one, but I would have liked to take it.
Like, I need to set the record straight, which is I had a loaner Cowboy e-bike. And so I got to experience it for, it was a good month. So it was maybe too rainy of a month in LA to really enjoy it. But anyways, I don't have a Cowboy e-bike, would love a Cowboy e-bike. And James, we haven't really set down in stone any rules about whether you and I can also enter these sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe let's keep it a gray area for a few more episodes.
I think I put that in the terms and condition. Me and James are eligible along with friends. Yeah, I agree. We can run this however we want until they stop us, right? So good idea. And Julia, do you have any other bikes going on right now? Are you riding anything? What's your portfolio looking like?
Yeah, so right now it's the Rad Runner 3 Plus, but I gotta be honest, still in the boxes because I've been doing some traveling, haven't had time to put it together, and actually I'm looking up some mobile like bike maintenance and put together services in LA to help me, because it's approximately like 10 to 15 boxes of things that I've got for the Rad Runner 3 Plus. So I'm super, super excited to get it together. And James, actually, I'm planning on taking some video, sharing my comments on what it's like both to put it together and then to ride it.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this a lot as a theme, but I also, I think you're hitting something really important, which is that user experience of actually being able to ride after you buy is not always excellent. And, you're in the second largest city in the US, and it's still not just like easy to go from box to bike. And
right.
That's a bummer, because we clearly want to get you riding, and
totally.
you deserve it, I think.
Okay. James. Yeah.
Sporting. And let's go to other quick announcements. from a housekeeping perspective. The first is the Startup Awards at Micromobility Europe on June 8th and 9th, which we hope to see you all there for, is just like amazing. And so we put together this graphic showing you the current qualified startups that will be pitching. I think we're over 60 startups now. These are the majority of those logos. We can handle about 100, we believe. And so you can still submit on micromobility.io for the Startup Awards, and we hope you do. But this is going to be awesome. And our one ask is that you're most likely launching a product. And so check this out. If you are a startup and you want to pitch for an award, just go to micromobility.io and submit your information. But super excited about the turnout so far. Was talking to our friend Oliver Bruce, Julia, who's running the Startup Awards. And, I think this is going to be quite a show of launches. So very excited about that.
And James, is this the first time that the Startup Awards is going to be, it's going to be a full day, right?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 days. We're going to actually have to extend it over to the Thursday and the Friday. So you're talking about probably 60 or so startup pitches on Thursday, and then another 40 on Friday, and the winners will be announced by the judges on that Friday afternoon.
Wow.
Or go on a ride of a lifetime, which we're
right. I forgot. We keep previewing this and never getting any more information.
Yeah, details are really right. Yeah, no details, but it will be the ride of a lifetime. So just underselling it slightly.
Wait, do we have to bring our own micromobility devices for this ride of a lifetime?
BYOV, bring your own vehicle.
It is?
And it's a lot of people, and clearly we're going to have a lot of our exhibitors there that will have vehicles. We're trying to do some work with some of the local Amsterdam bike share companies so that we'll have extra vehicles. But it wouldn't hurt to bring your own vehicle, especially for the locals.
Are you going to bring your own vehicle from California all the way to Amsterdam?
I always have my own vehicles wherever I'm at. Yes, I need to put that. Roll it out.
Like you're an international man of mystery, and you have your getaway micromobility vehicle in every city that you go to.
Yeah, I call Petty on the phone. I'm like, yeah. And, it's like this little tiny vehicle. Not, but it's a new look. I'll have my vehicles, and we'll be right. Like you said, Julia, I think we have to start the entire race.
Yeah, I gotta figure out my vehicle. Gotta start talking to people.
Absolutely. And then, on that point, we'll also have an opportunity for you here in America, Julia. So an exciting announcement from last week was we announced Micromobility America, which will be in the Bay Area. Again, San Francisco Bay Area in California, October 19th and 20th. Put it on your calendar. You can buy early bird tickets right now at micromobility.io. But this show will be, again, amazing and super fun. And, we'll take a lot of the learnings from Europe and the rides that we're doing and try to apply it, of course, in America. So check that out. And I'm super excited. What are you thinking about for America, Julie? Are you going to do anything different across any spectrum? I don't know. What
I mean, that feels like a long time away. October, and we're only in April and haven't done Micromobility Europe yet. But I will say my, secret dream for Micromobility America is that we might have some version of the e-bike act passed. So that would be pretty cool to be able to, celebrate a big win at Micromobility America.
I think if that happens, we should just bring some cannons and just shoot money out of it.
We should.
E-bike for you, e-bike for you. And we'll get some local politicians. I'm sure they'll
want to join us. She lives in California too.
That's a good point.
I'll drive with her from Montecito up the coast. She and I will have a lovely time going on the one.
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun if we had Oprah there. I think that's our goal now. We have to get Oprah to
I know. The stakes have gotten higher. It now needs to be Oprah, and not just in a car, but on a micromobility vehicle.
I mean, what an amazing sign of the times if Oprah is at the show giving away micromobility vehicles, as opposed to she used to give away the Pontiacs or something, on the old show. So this would be so much.
Give away Pontiacs? That doesn't sound very Oprah to me.
Pontiac Grand Am. I remember watching Oprah, red Pontiac Grand Am. It's I don't know. That's what I remember.
Oh my gosh.
We got to get to the news, Julia. This is way too
much. Too much.
I'm sending it over to you. Kick us off.
Great. Awesome. Okay, James, starting with a news story that unfortunately is hurting my heart a little bit. Paris, city of light, city of love, has voted to ban shared scooters. Ah, this is a highly publicized referendum. We've talked about this a lot in our show. The margin in the vote wasn't close. I mean, James, you've probably seen the story, so it's might not be worth asking you to guess at what the margin of in favor versus against was. But what do you think it was? Do you remember?
89%.
Yeah, good memory. So, for all those who didn't see this story this week, 89% of Parisians who voted were in favor, but the turnout itself was low, so only 7% of eligible voters. Needless to say, this was not a very representative vote. Likely what happened is you got all the people who were really naysayers of shared scooters rather, who turned out to vote. And regardless of the outcome, what it looks like is going to happen is that Mayor Anne Hidalgo is going to adhere to the results. So she is going to listen to the people in this case and allow the contracts for the city's current 3 operators, so Lime, Tier, and Dott, to expire later this year. What that means is that Parisians will lose access to 15,000 shared scooters. So 15,000 shared scooters, which is kind of nuts when you think about it, across the streets and the sidewalks and the safe scooter parking areas of Paris. 15,000 shared scooters will be lost. That's almost certainly going to make getting around without a car less convenient. James, what do you think of the news?
I think it was very predictable. I think they basically telegraphed that this was going to happen. I think this is a broader trend that we've seen. And there's just a lot of learnings here that, I think Horace and I did a webinar a while ago on the, basically the contrarian case for shared, where we said the relationship between the shared providers and the governments really needed to change from a customer perspective, and how they were actually not so much at the whims and the demands of the government. And I think this is a good example where, Lime, Dott, and Tier just had no chance. And unfortunately, they invested a lot of money in these programs, and now they're kind of left holding the bag, so to speak. So I think that's the negative side. I think the positive side, and we addressed this a lot in our newsletter on Tuesday, was the micromobility movement, and this is not a big part of the broader micromobility movement. So as you mentioned, there's 15,000 shared scooters in Paris. Last year, France sold the country. There was 900,000 scooters sold in France, right? So there's a lot of people out there now predicting that scooter sales will continue to basically grow quite a bit because of this referendum in the city of Paris. And I think that's right. And then, my experience being in Paris 2 weeks ago is I was on a shared e-bike the entire time. And so, I think it's very unfortunate that the e-bikes will still be there. So the nether micromobility mode is available for shared, which I think is good. But this will change the city a little bit. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think it's a vote against progress. But again, I think the positive note is you can't stop micromobility. You can't stop people from buying things, which is just a really good learning lesson in general. Like we let people buy motorcycles where, your face is effectively the crumple zone, right? Like you can't.
What?
Right? Like you can't regulate what someone wants to buy, but clearly with shared, you can regulate a lot more. And so I think for the people out there saying, well, this is a terrible move, we have to get ahead of this government regulation. I don't know. We're on their land. Like, we're using their facilities. If you watch how the automobile evolved, I think ownership is the way to start, and then you wedge into other areas. So I think the broader, I think owned is the play. And until when we get mass adoption of owned, which we predict will happen, I think more of these shared businesses will have a much better opportunity in cities.
Yeah. No, you kind of took the words out of my mouth in terms of the mass adoption of owned micromobility. The prediction is that, the private market is going to continue to flourish in the aftermath of the vote. And there was one scooter retailer who, clearly isn't like an unbiased and objective opinion, but still is one perspective, said that they expected sales in Paris to increase 200% just because people like using micromobility. There might be controversy around how shared scooters are used and managed, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to want to bike around or scoot around or ride around Paris somehow. I mean, I don't know if you've been in a car in Paris, but it's actually miserable. Like, it's not fun to be in a car in most European cities. It's not even fun to be in a car in US cities, or for that matter, in Asian cities or wherever. Like, it's not that much fun. So I think what I'm understanding too is in Europe, shared mobility of all kinds, not just scooters, only accounts for less than 0.5% of trips. And what that means to me is that when you're talking about transit, when you're talking about private mobility, like, that is the majority of the trips, or the large majority of trips that people are doing anyways. So what we really should be talking about, is less these 3 shared micromobility operators not being able to deploy 15,000 shared scooters. Although, don't get me wrong, I think that's a loss for the city, and as well as the broader movement of trying to incorporate micromobility into transit. I think we should be talking about how micromobility is still one of the most well-liked forms of transportation globally. And, that we shouldn't be losing sleep over what 7% of people in a single city that has a lot of opinions anyways, if we're being honest, about one, very specific form factor and about one type of business model. So maybe a small loss of a battle. I was going to use a battle analogy, and then I realized, like, I don't know that much about wars, and, like, don't watch enough battle movies and war movies in order to, like, make an analogy. Is this a battle? We lost a battle, but we're winning the war. Is that what I'm going to say here?
I'm going to leave that one to me, Julia. I got you covered. Constantly watching war movies. Yeah. There's a much broader war going on, and if you want to mark this up to soldiers down, or whatever the grotesque analogy you're making there, there are more soldiers still on the field, and this will get a lot of headlines. People love to talk about shared scooters. Love it. There's nothing that the press doesn't like around shared scooters, but there is a much bigger thing happening. And shout out to all our friends in France and Paris, like, that ride scooters, and I know you can just go out and buy them. And, like, we're going to be there for you. And we'll be, at Micromobility Europe, we'll have a shared scooter CEO panel. We'll also have a panel around a CEO's own scooters. And I think both those perspectives will be great to hear. And, even though you can't ride scooters in Amsterdam, which is interesting, there's still a big market in the broader European market for scooters. And again, it's not about, I think the way the own market works, people should be able to ride what they want. If you don't like scooters, don't ride them. But some people do. And I mean, not just some, a lot of people do, based on the buying numbers and even the riding numbers for shared. So, this idea that you can decide what people should be able to ride is really silly. And I think history will look at it pretty silly.
Yeah. It also makes me think about where the dollars of investment have flowed to, rather. I mean, if you look at just private dollars of investment, they all went into the shared scooter operators in the beginning. And that's where, when we look back at all the venture money that has gone into the micromobility industry, it really went there. And those are the investments that honestly aren't really panning out. The public dollars right now are starting to go more into the privately owned micromobility space, where there's subsidies and incentives for purchasing these vehicles. I just think you need to see a rebalancing. Like, I think more private dollars need to go into private mobility, and more public dollars also need to go into private mobility. And for that matter, like, probably more public dollars need to go into public mobility, like into the shared mobility itself. I don't think that cities have fully embraced, because they were so burned by Uber, so burned by Lyft, so burned by, like, all these other startups that they felt just kind of invaded their public space without really asking permission, that they have not been, and I'll just, call it as I see it, like, they've not been as innovative and creative and inventive and collaborative as they could have been with shared micromobility operators. And it's just, I mean, we're seeing what happens when people lack imagination. So let's hope that this doesn't set off a series of referendums. Let's hope instead that what it does is set off a series of much more productive conversations around procurement and contracts and all of the things that are really fucking boring, but you need to talk about and figure out liability insurance in order to have a functioning transit system that incorporates multimodality.
Julia. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. You're you're totally spot on. And yeah, I just bring up a point. Oliver Bruce has on the podcast coming up. He has the CEO of Apollo Scooters. Here they're out of the U.S. and a fantastic story, a bootstrap story. Built the company from his own money, and they sell tens of thousands of scooters now a year, and they're profitable, and they never took outside capital. And so you have stories like that. And then on the other end, of course, we have all these, a lot of bankrupt companies that raised a ton of money and they lost it because they didn't work with the governments correctly. So it's just it's in many ways it's a mess, but the phoenix rises out of the ashes, right? And like there's a lot of cool stories that we'll continue to profile that. Again, we'll get headlines. You won't hear these stories about these really wonderful success stories all the time, but they're out there, and we're going to cover them. That's what we promise you, audience. Okay, on my end, speaking of being innovative or inventive, Julia, as you said, I want to just quickly shout out this really cool company and this really cool designer. His name is Shuai Cheng, who is building this prototype of what is called the Atlas, which is effectively a refrigerator on wheels. And I just love this idea, and we're seeing so much of this inventiveness in micromobility, where what Shuai, I think, was trying to show here is you could basically have these compartments of refrigeration where in urban areas you could ride this, what is effectively this feet-like front-loading vehicle that had different compartments that could be used actually for food delivery. So, based on what you were delivering, you could set it to very specific food temperatures, and then the interface of the vehicle would tell you like what your next stop was and what that food was and what temperature that specific refrigeration containment is. You can't see in this photo, but on the other side are basically pods of refrigeration that you'd put basically every delivery meal in. So I just love this as the first thing I wanted to talk about today. And I think in many ways this speaks to what looks like a prototype, but is very plausible. And given, a lot of the new ways that we're able to do self-balancing, the way we're able to do front-loaded cargo that we've seen some from like really the pioneers like Urban Arrow and others, this is like really plausible. And I think this is much better than your typical, 10,000 pound delivery van to deliver your burritos and, your ice creams. So shout out to Shuai on this design. I think we'll see this, I think we'll see things like this pretty soon. But yeah, what do you think, Julia? Are you seeing these around LA somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. There are a few comments I want to make here. First of all, I think what this design is capitalizing on is just the delivery market. I mean, it's like no surprise to anybody that since the pandemic, deliveries have gone up, that the miles traveled for deliveries have gone up, and that there are more companies who are trying to capture those miles and in different ways. So what I see in LA actually is I see sidewalk delivery robots. I don't know if you have those down in Encinitas. Yeah, we get sidewalk delivery robots. I've seen some e-cargo bikes, certainly seen some, cars that are delivering groceries. But I think that this is really a cool form factor because it is not just a couple blocks radius where Atlas could be delivering vehicle or it could be delivering meals. It's really much broader than that. It also makes me think, James, that this is somewhat of a competitor or maybe a complementary vehicle to a vehicle called Nuro. Do you remember that company?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. And I'd almost like to see them team up or like Nuro acquire Atlas or vice versa. Because I think it could be really cool to have a fleet of autonomous delivery vehicles coupled with a fleet of these grocery delivery vehicles. So anyways, I think this type of vehicle is needed. It's right for partnership. And I also like that it's a trike rather than contained like a neighborhood electric vehicle or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's totally spot on. So yeah, like shout out again to Shuai, and hope to see this thing get made. And yeah, it's just super cool to imagine the possibilities and delivery. So we'll do two types of panels in Europe and America this year. One type is more family cargo, consumer cargo, and then also more B2B and delivery cargo. So with some of these companies, of course, overlap. They build both, but then there are some companies that are just focused on, for instance, B2B delivery, micromobility vehicles, or some focus just on family. So those should be some really interesting panels with the CEOs thinking about this. So Julia, we have our guests that we're going to invite up now.
Yes, plural. Yeah.
I know. First time we've done two guests. This is coming off of, we have both Cake and Italika joining us today. Julia, I remember you commenting a couple of weeks ago, basically saying, I'd love to talk to Cake and Italika about some of the new business, basically some of the new business they announced around vehicles that they're going to manufacture and sell out of Mexico. And so we were able to get them on. So I'm going to invite them up now. Welcome to you both. We just did a brief introduction in terms of talking about the announcement you guys made around your business relationship, but I wanted to formally introduce you both. So Servando Canales is the head of innovation at Italika and also the founder and CEO of Citio. And then Eric Asmussen is the Chief Growth Officer at Cake. So thank you both for joining us today. How are you both doing?
Hi, thanks for having us. Nice to be here, James and Julia. And yeah, pretty exciting partnership with Cake. I think completely different companies in terms of what we're doing today, but there's some key points that really align us, and it's going to be pretty exciting going forward for sure.
Yeah, and thank you for having us. I mean, I think we saw a great opportunity, and it's also a lot to do with the person clicking. And when I had the initial discussions with Servando, and we were just like, we got to just make this happen in one way or another. I mean, we're proud of having electric utility bikes and with a premium feel, and we saw, or at least we thought we saw, that was lacking on the Mexican market, and who would be better to work with than Servando and his team in Italika and Citio.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, this is great. And Eric, compliments to you as the Chief Growth Officer. You've been maybe the busiest man in micromobility growth based on you set the stage there. You made an announcement with Servando and in Mexico with 50,000 bikes. You made an announcement also with China and 150,000 bikes, and then in Europe and Greece on 1,500 bikes. So sort of rolling thunder of announcements, which is really, really cool. And then for this call though, specifically in Mexico, I think, here, Julia and I are both and Eric, you're in Southern California too, I believe. Yeah. So the Mexican market is very interesting. We've seen a lot of really cool things happening in the auto manufacturing market and some deals announced in Mexico. So it's really cool to see some of the focus on micromobility and manufacturing. Just to start, I'd love to understand how the partnership came together and, what your goals are of the partnership.
Do you want to start, Servando?
Yeah, for sure. So we met at CES last year, and I've been following Cake for a while now. I really like the product, and the one thing that really made sense for me is their approach as of a utility vehicle. Most of the motorcycles we sell here in Mexico are just that, like they're a tool to generate income, and they're basically a tool. And the utility approach of Cake is one of the things that it's missing in our current lineup. So we mostly sell combustion motorcycles, but we're trying to get into this electric mobility world, and we're trying to do it with the right approach from the get-go. So I think this utility approach Cake has going on with the assembly and the experience we have in the market, it's a great combination.
Yeah, I mean, we as I said before, it was some sort of a mutual energy level between me and Servando when we met the first time, where we thought that we just have to do something in regards of this potential audience that we could see in Mexico and in Mexico City as well. I mean, you just showed us the bike, the Atlas bike, where you can do groceries. I mean, our bikes can, in one way or another, can have a big box in the back that could either be heated for delivery of food, or it could be chilled. We do vaccine deliveries in Africa, and we can also have trailers behind for groceries. So I think like in a city like Mexico City, and with a team that could support the growth like Italika, it looks very bright.
Great. Yeah. And on that, so Servando, I'd love to understand a little bit more your role in Italika versus and how we think about Citio, or how the consumer would think about Citio versus Italika.
Yeah, so Citio is a startup I funded, and it's basically a battery swapping network for electric motorcycles. And we do this to split the ownership between the motorcycle and the battery, and this way we can get the cost down, and then we can eliminate some of the things that stop people from buying an electric vehicle. So it's charging time, and then, of course, range or autonomy. So by swapping the battery, we try to have a better solution in terms of mobility, and then this way we can compete against our own combustion products. And then this is how I met Italika, because Italika sells the two bikes that today work with the CTO battery in the network. So as time went by, then I started helping Italika out with some other micromobility and electric mobility projects. And then nowadays I have both hats, and yeah, it's been pretty exciting. So I can push the battery swapping network inside Italika, and then I can get other type of products and solutions in terms of mobility.
And Servando, how many battery swapping stations do you have through Citio?
So right now we have in Mexico City, we have 55 stations, and then we're doing also Guadalajara. We have a small network in Tulum, which is basically tourists and renting bikes that use this swapping network. And we're launching Tampico now. So yeah.
Amazing. That's very cool. And I was actually going to ask a question about that, around how you all were going to make the swapping stations work, because, 50,000 vehicles need to be serviced somehow. So it sounds like you have a plan for that. And Servando and James, I'll get back to you in a second to ask more questions, but I'm actually going to be in Mexico City at the end of the month. So it'd be awesome to check out.
Right. Sure, for sure. We'll host you.
Perfect.
Yeah. So,
Sorry, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Servando.
yeah, I think this is one of the things we as Italika bring into the partnership in terms of service and spare parts. We have a really big network. We have over 1,000 service points in the country, and this is of course needed when you introduce a new product into a new market. So we'll be taking care of that, and there's more exciting things on the road. So one is the swapping network, making it work with Cake, maybe down the road. And then we also have assembly. And maybe you want to talk a bit about the assembly, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, we can sense the growth, and as you started saying, James, that we see a huge interest for the kind of whole micromobility. That's not really where Cake started. It was more about being out in the wilderness, explore with respect, and kind of just out there having fun. Then after a little while, realizing that you need to get from A to B, you're tired of being traffic, all these things like all of us know, but that not the potential genuine American is very well aware of. They still use their big pickups to go to do groceries and so on. So for us, it's a whole behavioral kind of journey where we need to teach people of how to get from A to B, and that you can deliver a pizza but not being in a Honda Civic from 1986, and those different things, and it's a long journey. So how do we do this journey in the best possible way? I mean, how can we introduce our like idea, not only the product, because there's other products out there that also fits this kind of place in the markets, and that would also work, but how can we differ, and why would we be better than anybody else? So I'm thinking, like, let's build a premium product that won't break down as much, a product where it's actually sustainable because you don't overconsume, where you have a broad network of service like Servando, and where we can have more local assembly. And that's where Servando and his team come in, because we can see a huge growth in the North American market, and we need to assemble closer to home, so to say. We have assembly in Europe, we have assembly in Asia, and we need to have assembly over here. So where should that be? Should that be Canada? Should that be US? Should that be Mexico? With this partnership, it's great. We have great opportunities of learning and And Italika has so many years of putting bikes together that with even though our bikes are very different from the Italika bikes, it's another process, and there's a lot of things that needs to be done differently. It's still a lot of expertise and knowledge that we would get through this partnership together with Servando and the whole team of Italika.
So how long, Eric, do you think when I would go into your Venice or Rio del Rey store, would I be riding on a vehicle that's actually been manufactured in Mexico? How long do you think that is away?
Early fall, I would say. I think that you'll probably in August you would be on a bike that would potentially Servando would put the last sticker on down in Mexico.
That's yeah. I mean, again, like everything in micro, it's so much faster than how we would think about automobile manufacturing and the time it would take to actually develop a plant and get cars shipping off the line. So
yeah, and we have to remember that we're initially talking about an assembly function in Mexico, and then eventually down the road looking at more manufacturing and other ways that we can find our partnerships. It's very easy when you do large deals or large partnership like this that you try to see where will we be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, how many bikes, and those numbers that you threw out, who knows, it might be 5 times as much at the end. So I think that what we have successfully managed to do in this discussion is take one step at a time. And we're starting now with our current lineup in Mexico, and where they're helping us with the assembly of these bikes to be closer to our audience, where we can have a higher customer satisfaction at the end.
Yep, that makes sense. And maybe, I guess, final question, I know we're running out of time, is, the way Servando opened, and Eric, we've been talking a lot about utility. Of course, where you guys came from was a little bit more, explore with that nice tagline you had there. How much should we think about Cake as, in North America, building bikes for utility, maybe more for, like, as I mentioned before, that list, more B2B, almost delivery versus really just actually to the end consumer for fun and for, commutes. How would you think about that balance in North America? Like, how much is percentage-wise is going to be towards B2B utility versus B2C commuting and fun?
It's very, very interesting that you mentioned that, because in Europe, when I was living in Stockholm until this summer, when I moved to LA with my family, and we opened up this showroom, or site as we call it here in Venice/Marina del Rey. Europe always have an idea and a thought that it would be approximately 70% B2B and 30% B2C. I came over here kind of thinking that this would be the case, but I would say it's the other way around in the US. And then people might ask why. I would say that one thing is that a lot of the deliveries are through gig workers that potentially own their own vehicle, or they just go out and grab a stand-up e-scooter. I think that there's a liability issue amongst delivery companies in the US for two-wheelers. And it's a little bit scary because it's something new. I don't know how many times I've gotten from friends where they say that, oh, wow, I don't know if I dare. What if it runs out of electricity? And I'm like, yeah, but you have more outlets close to you than you have gas stations. I don't really know why you're that afraid of.
It's an excellent point, Eric. Yeah.
I really think that for now, yes, potentially 70% will be B2C in the US, and the rest will be end consumers. We have off-road vehicles, you have the commuters and everything. But I think it will grow, because if you look at the total cost of ownership or operations for a B2B, having a bike that won't break down, that can squeeze through traffic, where you don't have to search for parking. If you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, wow, you would save a lot of time if you could be on a bike instead. You could probably get 2 to 3 more clients in every day. And if you deliver products, if it's packages or if it's food or whatever it might be, wow, would you get more deliveries done if you're on one of our bikes or a similar two-wheeler bikes that's narrow, can squeeze through traffic. So I think it's only about the North American market being a little bit behind in that sense, that we're not really used to a two-wheeler in the cities, as well as you might be in Hong Kong or in Madrid or in Rome in Europe, for instance. But it's going to come, and when it's coming, we will be totally ready. And I was very pleased of seeing Mexico City, that's got way more bikes than LA. So there's fantastic opportunities here in North America.
Yeah, we agree, and I think that's awesome. I mean, and I think Julia and I are both excited that you moved your family from Sweden to California, and it's you're kicking ass. You're making a lot of progress. So
Thank you. Thanks.
yep, we're here to help.
We're gonna come visit you in Venice/Marina del Rey, Eric, and come see the site.
Invite everyone, come and have some test rides, and we'll have an after work or something. And I must say, thank you as well for the September event in San Francisco. That was actually a place where Servando and I got the chance to sit down and basically finalize everything. And unfortunately, big deals like this takes a little bit of time from everything from lawyers and discussions after that. But it was a very successful event for us to again, kind of half a year after, see us meet, sit down, and discuss. So thank you very much, guys, for arranging that.
Man, awesome. Well, I'd love to hear that. I didn't know that. So that's
Yeah.
Love to hear that. And hope to see you both in either Europe or America this year. We want to tell more of these distributor stories. We think it's so important. So thank you both for coming on. We're also going to give away the Cake Ready bike, Eric, which is very exciting. So to our audience, we'll send some more details over on that. And yeah, thank you both for coming on, and we'll see you in a couple months in Europe.
We look forward.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, Servando. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Julia, that is so exciting. Crazy units, such a good story. It talks about so much of the things that we know matter, right? Like moving, manufacturing and assembly to Mexico, to service the North America market. Being this B2B and B2C company is so interesting, exciting. Like, how do you sell? Do you sell to the consumer that loves you and then they use it for work, or do you sell it to the workers that then use it for potentially play? Like, a lot of themes there and some big numbers, which is, I think,
We asked for a commission. Like, if you had known that story about how they brokered the deal at Micromobility America, like, maybe we should have gotten in on that.
I love that story. And again, it just speaks to this idea of like, whether it's COVID or whatever, like what matters most is that we get together and talk and, have to be in person. So
Yeah. And the importance of these events. So if you haven't already, sign up for Micromobility Europe. Get going to Micromobility America. I don't know, maybe we're going to be releasing tickets for Micromobility Global at some point. So you got to be there.
Absolutely. And Julia, we're out of time. We had other topics that we didn't get to. I'm bummed. We'll have to see.
Next week, like, only the news. Maybe we have a guest. We probably have to have a guest, but we mostly do the news.
We do have a guest next week, a very cool guest, by the way. So Julia, have some more exciting announcements and giveaways next week as well.
Yeah, well, James, I guess it's obvious that the industry is heating up because we can't even get to all the topics we need to in the short amount of time that we have. So instead of lengthening these to at multiple hours per day, I'll just say that I think it's a great sign of the times that we're having, guests on who are selling 150,000 or 200,000 plus bikes at the same time as, Paris is having a referendum on shared scooters. So, the, industry that never shuts down, kind of a roller coaster at the moment, but an interesting roller coaster to be on together.
Yeah, I agree. Great summary. And safe travels back from Atlanta. Ride on, and I'll see you next week.
Right on. All right. Bye, James.